My name is Swastik Nigam. I'm the founder and CEO of a humble fintech called Winvesta. But I started up after a 10-year career in investment banking. This isn't a story about the glossy, the sexy stuff you see on Instagram about founders and the LinkedIn journeys that they have. This is about the raw, unfiltered story, the underbelly that we all go through in our, entrepreneurial journeys. I spent 10 years at Deutsche Bank in London as a trader. It was a dream, cushy job. Every middle-class young Indian's dream career. Steady paychecks, clockwork-like schedules. You don't need to worry too much about your weekends. They were all for yourselves. Very comfortable. Luxury cars, 5 weeks of holidays every year. But there was some issue that I constantly had, right? I often thought that, is this all there is? One lunch afternoon when I was walking up to get, a bite, I felt, is there anything more? Is this something I'm missing out on? When I joined B School, when I joined IIM Ahmedabad, I'd often thought that I'd be launching something someday, but I didn't have a plan. Every now and then, I would join in on my friends' journeys, by being a small investor in their journeys. But I had this itch. When will I do this by myself? Every now and then, I looked at my seniors. I asked myself the question, would I want to swap lives with them? The answer was always a resounding no. This is not what I wanted. This is not what I thought I would make of myself when I joined as a 22-year-old on my B School journey. And that itch never really resolved itself. So, when the moment came, I made the jump. I was 34. But everything that is glossy about startups is about 22-year-old dropouts from universities. Media's splashed with them. You don't find middle-aged youth, as we like to call ourselves by then, who'd give up our 10-year investment banking career to start up from scratch. That's not something you hear of frequently enough. Statistically, it didn't sound very nice, right? I had, however, a few things that worked for me. I had a 1-year-old daughter, which meant I didn't have a few financial liabilities for too long. And the second thing was that I also had some part of my youth still left in me, right? Even though we often think of ourselves that, hey, youth has all gone away in your 20s. But there were golden handcuffs. We had inflated lifestyles. The higher you go up in your career, you keep adding costs to your lives. We had 5 weeks of international holidays that we just go off on a whim, anywhere, anytime. Luxury cars. What would it take to give all of that up? That was a question I didn't think of as hard as then. Would these golden handcuffs weigh me down for too long? That was a question I really did answer. What if I would regret? What was the biggest regret I'd have if I didn't make that plunge? And so I did. When I was 34, I didn't really have a plan, however. I had a whim of an idea, which was to help India go global. We started off with a product, an idea that we'd help Indians invest globally. That's the first thing. But soon enough, someone that I thought I'd be bringing on as a prospective co-founder got cold feet. He wanted to take legal action. Before we even started out, we wondered if he would die. We made it through that rough patch. Still in London, moved to India. We moved to India into my parents' home. I thought I'd stay there for a month. But this was January 2020. A month later, COVID hit us. There were 3 of us, my wife, my daughter, and I, with 6 suitcases, living in a 300 square foot teenage bedroom that I grew up in. for the next 9 months, unaware when this would end. We never expected the tryst that we would have, moving countries and locking ourselves up. The assumptions that we moved in were thrown out the window. Every now and then, we felt a disappointment, however. We'd get some traction, and then you got the punch of disappointment, as if it was waiting around the corner. I had a multi-million-dollar term sheet that came to us. But shortly after we got that, another prospective co-founder who was to finally join in on the journey moved on. The term sheet went away. The deal fell through. But in the run-up for that, we started hiring in aggressively. We started thinking of our growth. The growth now suddenly lay on very, very shaky ground. We had to imminently think of layoffs. People who had been working with me for years needed to now let go of themselves in days. Needed to find the steely grit to break through again. Now, in all of this, as we made these layoffs, it always seemed like you constantly had a headwind coming in, shaking you off your pedestal. And you felt that there must be something you must pull out of yourself every now and then. What did it give me? It gave me a lot of grit, a steely ability to get through all of it. There was another instance. When you build a fintech, you rely on a lot of partners, banking partners. Your revenue is built on them. Once a banking partner just pulled the rails. We faced the struggle of having zero revenue almost overnight. That didn't just happen once, it happened again. And when it happened twice, you felt you don't have an option, you just have to make it through. In the darkest of nights, you will need to find that small slivers of light. And that's what a founder journey does for you. Whenever something comes in and hits you, you find the smallest sliver of light that makes it worth it. When the layoffs happened, it gave me sleepless nights. But I learned that sleeplessness is never a solution. You still have to make a way through. And in that instance, the goal suddenly changed from really wondering how I can save as many jobs as possible so that I can turn on the lights in many homes as possible. So it is a hard journey. It's never easy. My family often asks me, how long will you go on this? They've sacrificed their cushy lifestyles. They've made a lot of sacrifices. Right? No international holidays at end now. Whenever we choose, instead of having weeks at end, we'd probably have 4 days at best. It's not easy when you think of what you've sacrificed. You're constantly thinking of the what if. What if we hadn't done this? Right? And here's one thing that you learn as a founder. I constantly tell myself, I am human and I forgive myself in this journey. Because at the end of it, still, the regret of not having been on this far outweighs the option of not having tried. Thank you.